If you've ever wondered about bees, ants, mice, hawks, or coyotes, this is the video for you. This is the omens that I'm going to talk about in this video. This is part of the series on omens that I've been doing. It's 1:11 p.m. Thursday, June 7th. This is going to be about the Mercury omens. So all these animals and things that I'm talking about relate to the planet Mercury. So starting off with one of the most classic Mercury omens is the hawk, if you ask me. The hawk is one of the most, has the best vision of almost any animal. It's really sharp and perceptive. So the hawk, when you really get down to it, the hawk is the symbol of Mercury in the sense of like perceptiveness and being very sharp and discerning and vigilant and alert and watchful. So when someone is described as being hawk-eyed, as having really amazing vision, you know, there's the superhero Hawkeye who's the best archer. You know what I mean? Yeah. Um, so perceptiveness and really, the senses in general are related to Mercury. And Mercury is the planet of cognition and digesting and understanding the information that's coming through the senses, which the mind, the manas, the moon is the sense mind overall and the field of experience and is the lord of the senses, as they say. And but then the moon, as I said, the child of the moon is Mercury. So Mercury is the one who assimilates and works with all that data and processes that data that we're always taking in right now. So the hawk symbolizes basically pay close attention to what is going on right now. When you see a hawk, be sharp, be alert, be vigilant, and that's what that represents. So it means that yes, you should be hawk-eyed. Or if it means that if you're thinking about something right now, then it means yeah, you need to pay attention to that thought. Or if someone's saying something to you at that moment, that's a very important message, and the hawk is there telling you, listen to this message. Um, and we also know that Mercury is related to Lord Vishnu, and what's Lord Vishnu's vehicle? Garuda, the hawk. Lord Vishnu literally rides on a hawk. And so that again symbolizes that the supreme intelligence, Vishnu, is intimately connected to the hawk, because the hawk is just like this sovereign being up in the sky. So hawks also are somewhat solar, and they do relate to the sun as well. So you could, depending on the context, omens are not a cut and dry thing. They're a very loose lunar thing. And so depending on the context, a hawk could represent the sun as well as Mercury. Um, so we know, so yeah, so basically when you see a hawk, it means pay attention to the message you're receiving. Or when I've had, like, this has happened so many times that I don't even keep track of it anymore, but when I see a hawk, I'll just check my email and I got a new email from someone, or I got an important message from someone, or if I was wanting to contact someone, they wrote me back. That's how it works. So it can mean you just did get a message, or it means pay attention to the message. Um, and it just means, yeah, just be sharp and alert. Um, I think if I was to put it really bluntly, I would say that it just symbolizes perceiving accurately. So when you're thinking about something and you see a hawk fly by, and it's, as long as the hawk's not dead or like injured or was just hurt, or you know what I mean, or just got hit by a car or something, which is very, very uncommon. So as long as you see that hawk flying by and it's in good shape, it's a good omen, and so it means what you're thinking about or what you're perceiving it accurately. So that's really good to know. Ants. Ants are another omen of Mercury. They represent the details and the little things, and they're all service oriented. They're all going to serve. That's they're all serving the queen, and that's what they're obsessed with. And Mercury is a planet of service. Virgo, the planet of the sign of where Mercury gets exalted. His own sign is a sign of service. Um, So if you see ants, and it's not uncommon, it's like a more uncommon situation, it can symbolize that there is some little fine detail, some mercurial detail that you need to pay attention to, or that is positive, that you may be overlooking if you're thinking about everything as being negative. And ants also symbolize patience in the Native American Indian tradition. and so they have a little bit of that Saturn element too in them, I think, because they're again service, always serving the queen. And the Meher Baba, perfect master, the avatar of Lord Vishnu, he's considered to be the most recent avatar. Of course, like mainstream Hinduism hasn't recognized him because mainstream Hinduism will never recognize an avatar until like hundreds of years after they've died. Meher Baba just recently died in the 70s, so that's what's so funny is, you know, well, that's like how life is, Christ, there wasn't Christianity until hundreds of years after Christ died. And it's oftentimes the avatar is actually hated and mocked while he's alive. And that's actually been the case with him. Everybody's very controversial, but pretty much considered in most of India to be the real avatar. And the longer time goes on, more and more that seems to be the case. And so the reason I bring this up is because Lord Meher Baba, if he is Lord Vishnu, that's very funny because Meher Baba specifically said don't kill ants if you don't have to. Like when they would go and like have a picnic somewhere and his followers would come, the avatar always has a circle of 12, like Krishna, Christ. Muhammad even had his 12 most advanced disciples. Muhammad was also greatly hated, and that's documented by the world, same as Christ. The entire Roman government hated him. Something that we always forget, but the avatar is always hated in the world. It's just another aside. I know this isn't a talk about avatars, but that's an objective fact that we can see with history. But anyways, Meher Baba would always tell his followers, if there's ants here, we couldn't put the blanket down. We'd have to put the blanket down over there where there are no ants. And because he said it's because ants are different from the average insect being because they're obsessed, they're only devoted to service. And so they're devoted animals and they're service-oriented animals to serving the queen. And they're not self-oriented. And so they have different sanskaras than the average other insect creature. So it's not really fascinating. So it said try not to kill ants if you don't have to. Of course, then, when you have to, you got to kill an ant. That's fine. And even when ants would crawl on him accidentally, he would, like move them off and he'd be like, that ant is going to have a human birth in its next life because it touched, the avatar. So that's just kind of neat. Of course, make your own decisions about what you want to believe in. Mice. Mice are another Mercury omen. They're kind of similar to ants in that they symbolize scrutiny. They're more about symbolizing detail and scrutiny and little things. Like a mice, you leave one grain out of food at night and a mice will come out and get that. And that symbolizes like scrutiny, and it symbolizes attention to detail. And so that side of Mercury that is very attentive to details related to the mouse. And if you have mouse medicine in the American Indian tradition, you're the type of person who can like walk into a room and find the one thing that's out of order, And so again, that's a mouse can be a symbol of Mercury. The other day I was driving home and I saw all this trash by my house because I guess people still think littering is okay in this modern world, whatever. And so I pulled over and I picked up the trash and ran and threw it away in the trash can. And I didn't have to do that, but I just felt I was in a good mood. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna clean up. There's no actual company or anything that cleans up our neighborhood, and the city doesn't do it. So it's kind of just up to us. And rednecks are always driving through and just littering all over the place. And so I cleaned it up, threw it away, no big deal. But right as I was doing that, a little mouse ran across the road, and it was rainy, so it wouldn't even ever came out. But it was like kind of overcast, and it just darted across from my house into the marsh, or like my area of the house. Just a little sign, like, yeah, it was a good deed, good little attention to detail. Yeah, clean that stuff up, or else you'll just see it for another week, and it'll just annoy you every time you have to drive by it. So it's usually little things like that, but and then if you saw a dead mouse when you're thinking about something, it might mean that you're overthinking it. You're being nitpicky. You know what I mean? So that could be the indication if you see a mouse in a bad spot. Ducks are also quite mercurial. They're also animals that relate a lot to Mercury because they're really playful, they're adaptable, they go and they dive, they're in the water, in the air, they're flying around, they're up in the trees laying their nests, kind of like how Mercury is very mixed and multifaceted and multi-talented. They're also really loud and quacking and talking all the time and really loud when they come in, whereas other birds just fly right into the lake silently. And they're mixed, they're colored, they're playful, they're sort of like a loose loose Mercury omen. I found that to work pretty well. Um, but now here's the best one, the Coyote, or Coyote as their, I think is the correct pronunciation, but no one that I know calls it that. So Coyote is the trickster. The American Indians see the coyote as the trickster medicine, and Mercury, as Lord Vishnu, is the trickster. By the way, Meher Baba was really fond of playing tricks on everyone all the time too. It's just kind of funny. But so we have Thoth in Egyptian culture related to Mercury, and he played tricks. We have Hermes, the thrice great. We um, we have this like trickster deity, or this trickster archetype that's kind of all throughout various cultures. And in the American Indian, it's the coyote. But what's funny is that the coyote relates to Mercury, and Mercury is that aspect of life that is all things. And so, of course, everything is sort of playful when you really see it that way. And so that's where this sort of like trickster energy comes from. And so if you see a coyote, one thing you got to remember is that there could be a trick being played on you, or you might be playing a trick on someone else, and it could be a positive thing, but it's tricky. It's going to be tricky. And I'll give you an example of this. I, I I almost thought I was in love with a girl at one point, and I was camping with her on her birthday, and we went on a hike, and we saw a beautiful coyote just break through a patch of forest and just run across this whole field and then leave. And we thought it was a wolf, though. So the wolf symbolizes like a teacher and a really, really auspicious thing, and nothing tricky about that. And so we were just like, wow, that's so amazing. And I really thought I loved this girl, and I thought I was in love with her, and she was making it seem like we were in love, or at least going to spend time together more. You know what I mean? And we were building something, we were developing something here. And so I was really all in and very invested and very attached to this girl, and that I thought was a very good omen. Anyway, it was, but it was not a wolf. It was not the teacher. It was the trickster. It was actually a coyote, and they're very hard to tell the difference. And so it turned out that that girl just wasn't the type of person who had that same kind of karma, and didn't. And she wasn't sure what she wanted. You know what I mean? And so things shifted as they do and she was ruled by Mercury as well. Um, and Mercurial people, things change. It's a fast-moving planet, so it just sort of shifted and went away, and that really hurt my feelings, And so I was very hurt and very broken up and torn up about this relationship, um, and I was just, I didn't know as much as I knew now. It was a good learning experience. It was a positive trick on me that the coyote played, where he made me think I was falling in love, made me think that this was the person I was supposed to be with, but it was really good for me because in that course of action, I then started doing a lot more things that I wasn't wanting to do, and I was getting my life together more that I didn't and wouldn't have otherwise done, because she was motivating me and inspiring me to do that. And so it was a trick that was played that gave me that was a positive thing, and I got myself into better health and did a lot of things with my life, which during that year I was just feeling so stuck. And in Varshafal, my year lord had like 0 harsha points, which just means like just completely uninterested in doing anything with yourself that life or that year. Compared to other years, it's like a year where you just don't want to get off the couch, and it felt that way. And so this person, she was helping me in that way, but it wasn't I wasn't going to be with that girl, and that omen was all telling me that at the time, but I didn't really realize it, and I wanted it to be a wolf rather than be a coyote, which it was almost impossible that it could have been a wolf once I learned about it more and analyzed it more in depth. So that was really, really fascinating, and I learned a lot from that whole experience. And now looking back on it, it's like, yeah, that coyote was telling me exactly what was going to happen. And there's a lot more other details that I don't really feel like sharing, but it was because it's very personal. And that's how omens are. They are a very personal thing. There's actually one even way crazier experience I had with a coyote, and it was when I was in Sedona at Ernst's place on the full moon at the Sedona Vedic Astrology Conference 2017 last November. but I'm not telling anyone about it because it was so special that I don't really care to share it with anyone. But it happened on the full moon and it involved coyotes howling at the moon, we could say, because that's one of the things they do. Um, and Channing Ayers, a great astrologer, and Ryan Kurzak, another great astrologer, they know about it because they were there in the room when it happened, or they were inside while I was outside when it happened. And this is the only reason I mention this is because it's actually really good to not just go sharing all of your occult experiences that you have with everyone all the time, especially in this day and age of oversharing. Of all, I mean, I could share, I could be constantly on YouTube talking about stuff all the time, but sometimes it kind of dilutes your experience of life when you share some of these experiences and um, not to sound like a broken record, but even to refer back to Meher Baba, he was very clear about that. He was like, if you actually ever do have a genuine occult experience, do not share it with your friends or anyone who's not an, a person of an equal or higher level of realization or experience. And the reason for that is because Mars and Mercury, and if you know your Avastas, you know how Mercury gets starred by Mars. Mars being the occult experiencer, the eighth house lord, the natural hero, and what's your inner battle, and Mercury being peers and socializing and oversharing and Facebook. Keep all that shit out of your spiritual life, if you ask me. You'll be a lot better. Um, okay, cool. All right. Well, these are just some Mercury omens. Hope they suit you well. I'll come back with the next planet. All right, take care.